Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Returned. You're not alone on this path, and you were meant to be here. Hi, and welcome to The Returned. We are honored to be sitting down today with John Davis, a man who has crossed the threshold of life and death, returning with a message of profound hope and enlightenment. At the age 21, a near-death experience during surgery led John on an eye-opening journey beyond this world. John's story is one of transformation as he unravels the truth of the afterlife and shares a message that death is not the end, but merely a transition. Welcome to The Returned, John.
Hey, Melina. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are so welcome. Before we dive into your near-death experience, John, can you give us a glimpse into the life of who you were before this moment happened in your life? And also, how did your beliefs shape the person you were at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised Catholic. My dad was very Catholic. And I remember when we were kids, he would always take us to church, sometimes 2 or 3 times during the week, and then also on Sundays. So I was raised a Catholic. That's all I ever believed. But my experience happened when I was 21. So when I was 21, I didn't really have a solid belief system so much. I knew that there had to be so much more than what we're led to believe with religion. And I had always had this feeling that there's got to be something more that I'm missing that I don't understand. And then, so I was very Catholic. I was always afraid of dying. What was going to happen when somebody passes, and I don't understand what happens. But then after I had my NDE, all of that went away. All of that fear, that anxiety, that worry about what happens when we pass. Why are we even here? How did we all get here? All those questions that I had always had my whole life, I got the answers from them from my NDE experience. And that's how it all started for me. So right now, I actually still go to a church because I have a lot of friends there. But I consider myself only about 50% Christian, because I believe in Jesus. I believe in what he came to teach, how he lived his life, non-judgment, compassion, caring for people. I just have a hard time with all the religious dogma. So I'm kind of like you, much more spiritually oriented than religionistic. And all of that really happened for me after my NDE.
Start at the beginning. That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
And tell the audience exactly how it started.
Sure. My dad was in sales, and one year he won a sales contest. He won these scooters, and we used to ride them all over the neighborhood. And one day I was out riding, and I had an accident, and I slammed into a tree. And the way that I landed, I tore the tendons off my right hand, and I had to go in for surgery to have them reattached. Well, I was only 21, and I had never really been in a hospital before. I never had surgery. I didn't know what to expect. So my mom drives me down to the hospital, and this is in Walnut Creek, California. And I go in to have the surgery, and when they start to give me the anesthesia, I had an allergic reaction, and it stopped my heart. And I actually died for 7 minutes. What happened during that 7-minute period, I had this extraordinary experience where I met my spirit guide, and he took me to the other side, a small part of the other side, but he showed me something about what happens when we pass, when we finish our lifetime. And he took me on this journey to all these different places in this 7-minute period of time. It was so odd because it felt to me like it was an hour or two, but it was all done in 7 minutes. And I think that God gave me the ability to remember every single detail of what I saw. Even though it happened when I was 21, to this day, I still remember it like it happened yesterday.
Why do you think that you were able to remember? Why do you think that they wanted you to remember?
I think it was because I'm supposed to share it. That's the whole purpose behind all of this is it's not for me. It's for me to share. And when I get to the end of my story, I'll tell you how I know that. Because at the very
Okay.
end, I had this experience with Jesus, and he talked to me. And that's when I realized that I'm supposed to share this story with anybody who will listen to me. So all these years, I've just always tried to share it as often as I possibly can.
Do you think, and I know we want to get on with the NDE part, but just while we're right here, do you think that um, that is why everyone has one? Do you think that everyone that actually has an NDE should be sharing their story?
I think so. I think so. I don't know why they gave this story to me. I would think they would give it to someone like you who has a podcast or somebody who's got a book or some way to get the story, to get the message out there, because that's what's really important. It wasn't me. It's the message that means something. It's the message that has to be told. It's given me so much hope in my life, knowing that we all have a reason for being here. Nobody is an accident. We're all here for a reason, and that this isn't home. The other side, or heaven, or the afterlife, that's our real home. We're just here temporarily.
That's right. That's right. I can't wait to hear more.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start from the beginning. And let me just tell your
Okay.
audience something too that kind of
Sure.
sets the tone for what happened with my experience. A lot of
Okay.
times when we hear about somebody who had a near-death experience, there's some kind of an accident or they're having surgery and they die and they find themselves above their bodies and they're looking down at themselves. And then they become aware of a tunnel. And at the end of the tunnel, there's a white light and they start moving down this tunnel. Well, before they get to the light, they're met by somebody. Usually it's a loved one, a friend, a family member who tells them it's not your time. You have to come back. So we never knew what happens on the other side of that white light. Well, with my experience, they did something different. I didn't have the floating above my body. I didn't have going down the tunnel. They started me on the other side of that white light. So when I died, the very next second, I was standing there. I opened up my eyes and I was standing in the most beautiful building I have ever seen. And that's what happens when people go into the white light when they die. They end up in where I was, what is called the Orientation Center. Well, right about then, in my left ear, I heard, "My name is Alan. I'm your spirit guide." And what happened is he took me to all these different places on the other side. And the whole time he was telling me what I was seeing in my left ear. He told me the buildings I saw, what they were, what I was looking at. And this whole time he was talking to me. And he told me that the building that I was in is called the Orientation Center. And it was all made of marble. And it was so long, I could not see the end of it. Just a beautiful white polished marble building. And on the right-hand side of me, I looked over to my right and there were all these marble columns, huge, tall, 20, 30 feet high marble columns, all the way down as far as I could see, and they were about 6 feet apart. In the middle where I was standing were all these tables. They all went down as far as you could see, and they're like they looked like the size of someone's average kitchen table, but it was made of white marble. And there were 4 benches on each side of these tables. And there were 2 people sitting at every one of these tables. And my guide said, these are orientation counselors. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know what a spirit guide was. So I was just listening to everything he was telling me. And he said that when a person passes, when their lifetime is finished, they go down the tunnel, they go into the white light, and they end up in the orientation center. And what these orientation counselors are, they help people remember where they're from. Because many times when we pass, we don't remember where we're from. So their whole
Hmm.
job is to help us remember where we're from, that we're from the other side. And I'll tell you more about that in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
So all these counselors, on the left-hand side of me, this was the most remarkable part. On the left-hand side, all the way down as far as I could see, were tunnels or doorways that they looked like had been cut right out of solid marble. They were, and when you looked inside of them, it was black. It was like looking into space. And my guide said, look at the next tunnel. So I look up, and there's a man coming through. He was an elderly gentleman, maybe in his 80s or 90s. He'd lived a long life on Earth, and he had his right hand like this over his chest, like he had chest pain. And my guide said he just passed from a heart attack. So the woman that was closest to him, she stood up, she walked over to him, she took his hands in hers, and she led him back to the table, and they sat down. Well, she started talking to him, but I was too far away to hear what she was saying. But my guide was telling me that what the orientation counselors do is they help people remember that they just finished a lifetime and now they're back on the other side. And I don't know how this works, but when we come into a lifetime, we can't remember where we're from. Most of us don't remember that we're from the other side, that we're not here forever. The earth is only temporary. We don't remember that. And so many times people are confused when they pass. Well, that's what these orientation counselors are for. They help us remember where we're from. So my guide said to watch this gentleman. So his back was towards me. Well, all of a sudden, he began to change. And he changed from a man who was in his 80s or 90s into a man in his early 30s. And my guide
Oh
said
my
to
God.
everybody on the other side is in their 30s. And I didn't think at the time to ask why that is. I don't know, but I think that's how God created us. Because when a person passes as an elderly person, that's not how they are on the other side. They're all in their 30s. And if a child or a baby passes here, when they get back to the other side, they go back to the age 30. Yeah, because we're on the other side, we're all in our 30s. It's because when someone's in their 30s, they're still pretty young. And when they're in their 30s, they still have a lot of knowledge. It's kind of like being in the middle of what it's like to have a lot of experience and to still be young. And I think I don't know if it has anything to do with when Jesus died, how old he was. I don't know. But I think it has to do with how God created us. That's
That
how
is
we were.
very, very interesting.
Yeah, isn't it though? It is.
Yes, it really is.
And I think that's how God created us. Because
So you really
everybody,
just get to be 30 forever.
yeah, exactly. Because everybody that I saw, everybody that was over there, they look just like we do. They're young in their 30s, and everybody has a body that they all have their own personality, their own looks about them. And I thought that was just amazing because I had never known what to expect.
It's
So this man
unbelievable.
changes. He changes into a young man, and he stands up and he walks off to the right, and he walks down 3 steps into what I call the gardens. I don't know if that's what the other side calls them. That's just what it looked like to me. The most beautiful gardens you've ever seen. Beautiful green grass and flowers and plants and trees. It looked like an English garden. You know, the English gardens are all perfectly manicured. That's kind of what it looked like. Perfect green grass and lush flowers, and there were all these people there. And my guide said, we all have reunions. Well, he told me that all the people that this man knew in his lifetime that had passed before him, they're all there. Parents, friends, siblings, uncles, aunts, grandparents, and plus all the people that he already knew from the other side. They're all there. They were all waiting for him. So somehow, and I don't understand how this works, but everybody over there knows when our lifetimes are finished because they were waiting. And the orientation counselors, somehow they know who's coming through and when. Because I noticed that the tables, none of them had any computers on them. There were no computers, there were no booklets, there were no papers. So I never understood, how do they know who's coming through these tunnels when their lifetime is finished? But they do. It has to be a God thing. And somebody tells all those people that were there. So he walks into the gardens and all these people are there. Everybody that he had known in his life, they're all waiting for him. And my guide told me that when you have a lifetime on earth, it's a really big deal because there are many, many souls who don't want to come here because it is so hard. So all these people are there to greet us when we get back because they all know how hard it is for us to be here. They know it's a tough place. And because when you come here, you almost have to be like a warrior or a fighter to make it through this. So anytime we pass, it's a big deal for them that we succeeded because everybody succeeds. It doesn't matter if you think you failed. Everybody who just comes here, it's a huge win just to actually have the guts to come to this planet. So all these people were there and they were applauding and hugging him and telling him, congratulations, you did it. And all of us have that. And one of the things I learned is that there are so many people over there that are rooting for us. We have no idea how big of a deal it is to be here. We just don't know. And there are so many people. And when we get back, you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see all these people again. They're all going to be there. Friends, family members, parents, uncles, they're all going to be there waiting for you. And I thought that was one of the most extraordinary parts of my NDE was that you get to see all the people there to greet you. Well, then what happened next is my guide took me on this journey to these different places. And what he did is he took me to the outside of these different buildings to see what they look like. And then he took me to the inside. And on the other side, I don't know how, I can't explain this, but it's more real than anything I've ever experienced here. And you wouldn't think that heaven or the other side has buildings, but they do. And they are more solid, they're more real than what we have here. And every one of these places he took me to was absolutely gigantic. I mean, we have nothing like it here on Earth. The only thing that I can equate it to is the size of the Egyptian pyramids. But even these buildings were much, much larger than that. So he takes me to this first building, and it's a beautiful rectangular building, all made of white marble, with white marble columns on all along it. And he takes me to the inside. And the inside, he takes me to a room, and it's a round room. It looked like a round theater. And all above my head were these, looked like movie screens. There must have been 15 or 20 of these movie screens above me. And my guide said, this is where we have a life review. And all of a sudden, every one of these screens lit up. And it was like playing a movie. And every screen was a part of my life. One screen showed me as a little infant. Another one showed me as a toddler. Another one was showing a video of me entering my first day of kindergarten. And every screen had a different episode of my life. And my guide said, all of us have a life review. And the reason is we want to see if we accomplished what we set out to accomplish. And here is something else that was just extraordinary to me. There are, well, one of the reasons that they show you the life review is to let you know how your life affected others in a good way. And also, if there was anything that you did that hurt somebody, you see that also. And there was one of the screens was playing me as a grade schooler, and we had a boy in our class. His name was Troy, and he had walkers or stilts of some kind, or on his arms because his legs didn't work right. He had like MS or Parkinson's. He had something, and he fell in the playground. And I ran up to him and I picked up his braces, helped him put it back on. And I never thought anything about that. It was just no big deal. But on the other side, I felt how Troy felt when I helped him. And it was the neatest thing. But it also has you feel if you hurt other people. Not if you unintentionally hurt somebody, but if you actually tried to hurt somebody, you can feel how your actions affected somebody else. And my guide said, the life review is the greatest teacher of the soul. Because if you don't know how your actions affected somebody, you know them when you feel that. And so the life review is something that we all have to go through. But you'll be amazed. There's more good you did in your life than you could possibly realize. And none of us ever think about those small things. And they should.
Well, and you also don't think about the small little things where you were unkind, though, like when it was just to you, it wasn't anything, right?
Exactly.
Where it didn't even seem like it was unkind.
Yeah.
Like you didn't on purposely go out to be like, I'm going to just be unkind to people.
Exactly.
But you could be hurting someone without knowing.
Yeah. And what I learned too was that there's no judgment. One of the things that when I was being raised Catholic, I was always afraid of some kind of final judgment, but there isn't one. There is no judgment. There is no hell. God didn't create a hell. And I know that when I was over there, the most extraordinary thing that I felt was the love that God has for each and every one of us. He absolutely cherishes us, just like we cherish our own children. And none of us who have kids would ever send our kids to hell because of a mistake they made. We don't do that to our own kids. And God doesn't do that either. There is no hell. The only people that judge our life is ourselves, because we feel how our actions affected somebody else. And that's the greatest teacher of the soul. And so that was the life review part. So we leave. He takes me to another building. And this one was it looked very similar to the last one. Columns on the outside, big white marble columns, big rectangular building. And he takes me inside and takes me to a room that we would say looked like a modern movie theater. And there was a screen up in the front of the room, like a movie screen. And he said to me, I'm going to show you past lifetimes. Well, this just blew my mind because as a Catholic, no one's ever told about past lifetimes. So I didn't know what to think. So all of a sudden, he says, I'm going to show you past lifetimes. And the movie screen starts like a movie. And it's me, and I'm an older gentleman. I have a shaved head, and I'm wearing a red gown, and it's in a monastery. And I was a teacher. I taught little kids how to become monks in a monastery. And I knew that lifetime took place somewhere in Southeast Asia. And then the screen went blank. Then it lit up again, and it was another life. And it was me. I didn't look like myself at all, but it was me. And this lifetime was me with a wooden wheelbarrow. And I was pushing it down this cobblestone street. And there were all these shoes in it, like people's shoes. And what I did in that life, I fixed people's shoes. And I brought them back to them in the village. And then that one disappeared. Then another one shows up, and this one is of me as a fisherman, and I was standing in a wooden boat, and I was either on a lake or the ocean, and I had these nets, and I was casting these nets into the water to catch fish. And part of my job in that life was to help feed the village. And that life took place somewhere in the Middle East. And that was extraordinary for me because I didn't know we had past lifetimes.
Did you know how many that you had, or is that all that were shown to you?
Well, here's something that I did. Because of how I was raised, I had a really hard time believing that past lifetimes are real. So about 2 months after I had my experience, I went to see a woman in California who was a hypnotherapist. And I said, I want to see if past lifetimes are real. So we go into an induction, and sure enough, Melina, I saw 3 different lifetimes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was so interesting because the way I saw it, it was like looking at on the other side of my forehead. It was like seeing a video playing. And it wasn't just me making this up. It was like watching a movie. And I could see it on the inside of my head. So I knew that these were past lifetimes. And it occurred to me that when God created us eons and eons ago, he gave us this drive or this desire to always want to learn. Everybody likes to learn. We all enjoy growing and becoming more and developing. And on the other side, we live for eternity. There is no end. So if you want to have a lifetime, you can. You can have as many lifetimes or as few as you want. It's totally up to that individual soul. And I'll tell you more about that.
Yeah, when you bring up the part where you see the movie playing on the inside of your head, I see that.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh.
I see movies playing like that.
So you have real talent then.
I don't know if you want to call it talent, but I see it a
That's
lot.
amazing.
It's like when I go to bed sometimes or just close my eyes for a moment. It's like a movie. Sometimes it looks like old-fashioned black and white.
Oh,
And I know what you mean when you say you see that.
clear as day. It was like watching a movie.
And that was after the NDE.
Exactly. Yep. After the NDE. So I realized that we live for eternity. And of course, we always want to learn and we always want to grow. And you can have as many lifetimes as you want or as few as you want. And people can still learn on the other side. Like you can still go to music festivals. You can write, you can hike, you can ride bikes, you can play sports, you can just visit with people. And on the other side, you can still learn. There's libraries, there's places to go to learn, and I'll talk about that too. But that's one of the main reasons that we come to a planet like Earth, is because we can experience things here that we can't on the other side. Because the other side, the best way that I can explain it, it's like a perfect world. It's a paradise. There's no negativity. There's no war. There's no hunger. There's no disease. There's no suffering. There's nothing to work through. So on the other side, you can still learn things, but it's not like experiential learning. And that's what we come here for. And the thing that I've realized is that we learn the most when we go through something hard. And what we find here in life, when you have a lifetime, is there are a lot of hard times we go through here. And even if you look at your life, even 10 years ago, and you look at yourself today, you've become so much more. And none of us want to go back to the way we used to be because we've learned so much. And that's one of the primary reasons that we come here. In fact, I think there's 2 reasons why we come into a life. The first one is to learn, to experience. And the second one is to help others. There's a great quote that I always tell people from the Dalai Lama. And he said, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. And I have tried to live my life that way because that just seems to me that makes the most sense. We're here to learn and also try to help anybody that you can along the way. So that was the past life part. And the next building he took me to was this huge round building. It was round and it had white columns all in a circle, and it had a big dome on it. There's a building in Rome, and I forget what it's called, but it looked like this building. It's got a big dome on it. And my guide said, this is where we go when we plan our lifetimes. And I didn't think to ask him that. I don't know why I didn't ask him, but he said, this is where we go to plan our lives. So he takes me in the building, and he walks me up to a white marble table. And on the table, there was a single scroll. Have you ever seen those like Egyptian papyrus paper? It looked like that. It was rolled up, and it had a blue ribbon around it. And my guide said, all of our lives are planned. In other words, none of us are accidents. So I pick up this scroll, and I take the ribbon off, and I lay it on the table, and I unfold it. And I could see all this black lettering. And it looked like, remember when you were a kid and you had calligraphy class? You had those ink pens, you take it in the ink. That's what it looked like. And my guide explained to me that all the major events of our lifetimes are planned for. We plan what country we're going to live in, what language are we going to learn, are we going to go to a university, what kind of jobs are we going to have, are we going to have kids, and when we're going to pass. All these different things go into a life chart. And when I looked at my chart and when I went to try to read it, it folded up and I wasn't able to read it. And I think the reason was because if I had known some of the challenges that I was supposed to go through, I may have done something differently and I wouldn't have gone through that. So I wasn't able to read mine. But I looked over to my right, and there was this huge, gigantic wall that was full of all these scrolls. Everybody that had had a life back in 1987, they all had scrolls on this wall. And the reason that we write them out, it's kind of like, have you ever had a New Year's resolution at the end of the year and you write down what you want to do for the next year? That's kind of like what these are. When we finish our lives, when we go back to this building, we get our scroll, and we open it, and we look to see, did we accomplish everything we wanted to accomplish in that lifetime?
Oh, wow.
And then I looked over to my left right then, and this was extraordinary. I looked over to my left, and there was this huge, sprawling window, and I looked out, and there was a walkway, and there were all these people walking back and forth. Wherever I was, wherever my guide took me, it was really busy. There were a lot of people, a lot of activity, and they all look just like we do. But they all tend to wear like gowns or tunics of some kind of like you see in Greece. But they all, and there were other people who are wearing jeans and a t-shirt. It's just people wear whatever they want to wear. But they look just like,
so interesting.
Yeah, but they look just like we do. And on the other side of this walkway, there was the most beautiful, pristine lake I have ever seen. It was round, beautiful round lake, and it was so clear I could see the bottom, and there wasn't a ripple on this lake. And all around the circumference of this lake were these weeping willow trees. They're the ones that have those leaves that come over and they go right to and they were floating. All the leaves were floating on top of the water. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And my guide said, everything you like to do on Earth, you can do on the other side. You can play sports, you can ride bikes, you can take classes, you can go to music festivals, or you can just visit with people. All the things you like to do here, you can do over there. And I thought I just loved learning about that part. So I looked out the window. There were all those people out there. Then they had all the scrolls to the right. And then he takes me to another room in this building. and it was gigantic. It looked like a library, this huge library, but all the books looked the same. They looked like, have you ever seen Encyclopedia Britannicas?
Yes.
They looked like that. They were kind of maroon, kind of purple, and they were all stacked on these bookshelves. So we walk up, and as I'm looking at these books, I noticed that all of them have gold writing on the binding, but it wasn't horizontal. The writing went vertical. So he takes me up to this one book, and I'm standing in front of it, and I can see that it reads Nina, Nina. And my guide told me, he said, that is your soulmate. And he said, everybody has soulmates. Well, I didn't know what that even meant back in 1987. I had no idea what that was. But apparently, when God created us, he created all of us with a perfect mate. And on the other side, you have that person with you for eternity. And every one of us has these books about our soulmates. And the books contain information about their gifts, what they were created with, all their different lifetimes that they've had, what they've learned. And it's a history book about your soulmate. We all have them. And he wanted me to tell people that if you never find your person in your lifetime, it doesn't mean you failed. All of us come in with different reasons for being here. Some of us don't come here to have a loving, lifelong relationship, to find a marriage. Some of us do, and some of us don't. But on the other side, we all have our perfect mate with us. And I thought that is just such a beautiful thing, such a wonderful thing to know, that if you didn't find the person your love in this life, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means you didn't plan that. One thing that I realized is that on the other side, you have the perfect mate with you. When you come into a lifetime, one of the main reasons is to learn. And all of us learn by having relationships. So I know that the soulmate can come with you. I just don't know if they do it very often. Because if you had a soulmate with you in your life, you would never learn much about relationships. Because you'd have the, yeah. So, and I don't know if that's true. I know that anybody can come into your lifetime with you. I just don't know if the soulmate does that every single time. This next part is, I think, my most favorite part of my entire NDE. So he takes me to the outside of this next building, and this one was different. This one looked like it was made of some kind of steel or metal, and it was really long, and it looked like a stadium. Like when we would go see like a football game or a soccer game, that's what it looked like. So it takes me to the inside, and the inside it's super bright. All the lights are on. It's really, really bright. And there are all these empty seats, thousands of seats. And it was only me and my guide. So, well, then I realized there was a gentleman behind me. And where I was inside a planetarium. Did you ever go to a planetarium when you were a kid?
Yes.
And they would show the planets and things on the ceiling? That's where I was. So the gentleman behind me, remember earlier we talked about that everybody on the other side seems to have a job, like those orientation counselors? Everybody seems to do what they love to do over there, because God created all of us with different talents, and we all pursue those talents on the other side. Well, the gentleman that was behind me, he knew everything about galaxies and stars and planets. He ran this planetarium. So he said to me, he said, let's begin. And all of a sudden, all the lights went off. It was pitch black. And I sat down, and he said, when you look at the stars, this is what you see. And all of a sudden, all of our solar system started showing up. Our sun, then planet Earth, then Mercury and Mars and Venus and all of our planets showed up, and then they disappeared. And then he said, when we look at the stars, this is what we see. And what he was talking about was everybody on the other side, at their level of knowledge and development, this is what they see. And all of a sudden, planet after planet started showing up. First, it was a dozen, then hundreds, then thousands and millions of planets. And I think there were two reasons why they showed me this. The first one was to show me that life is not the only inhabited planet. And the second one, or the second reason, was that Earth is not the only place that we can come to have a lifetime. And that it just blew my mind because when I was a kid, I used to come home from school and I would watch reruns of the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk. And I always believed there's got to be other life in the universe besides just us. And one of the things I like to share with people is my fascination with astronomy. And something that'll blow your mind is in our galaxy, just the Milky Way galaxy alone, astronomers estimate that there are 100 billion planets just in our galaxy. And there are 400 billion suns in our galaxy. And they think that there are billions and billions of planets just in our galaxy. And they also think, now that we have the James Webb telescope and the Hubble telescope, they think that there are 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. And here's something that blew my mind. Everything is so far apart in space, in the universe, that astronomers measure how far away things are by how far light travels in a year. They call it a light year. And it's our galaxy, just the Milky Way, is so large that if we had a ship that could travel at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second, it would take 99,000 years to get from one end of our galaxy to the other. And that's just our galaxy. If there are 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, and each galaxy has 100 billion planets, can you imagine how many worlds there are to explore? And I think that's what God did for us. He gave us the other side, this perfect place, but he also gave us unlimited opportunities to learn from all these different worlds and all these different planets. Isn't that just extraordinary?
And do you think that it is? And do you think that it would be just populated with human beings?
I don't know. Because when I was looking at the planets that he was showing me, it was the angle that it was like looking at it from orbit. I was too far away to see if there were any civilizations. I couldn't see that close. But I knew that all these planets had life on them. And I'm sure they don't all look like us. I'm sure that I remember when I saw Star Wars for the first time, George Lucas's Star Wars, I was like, oh my gosh, that has to be true, because every planet would have its own evolutionary scheme to it. And every planet would have to have its own people, its own civilizations. There are some civilizations that I'm sure are far more advanced than ours, and I'm sure there are some that are less advanced. But what they told me was that Earth is one of the hardest of all the planets, and that there are many, many souls who don't want to come here because it is so hard. And even if you look at some of the things in your own life, you're like, that really was hard. That was a hard lesson that I went through. And all the things that happened to us, the hardships, the heartbreaks, the isolation, the disappointments, all the pain, everything that we go through here. But it teaches us. And that's one of the reasons that we come here, is because we want to know what it's like to test ourselves. How far can we really go? What can we learn more about ourselves by going through something? And that's why going through something difficult is the greatest teacher. It's almost like the past made us what we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the
So
reasons.
do you think that, so having said all that, do you think that, so you believe in a reincarnation?
It's absolutely true.
And
Yeah.
do you think that, so we just keep coming back and we just do like this loop?
Only if you want to.
Okay.
No, nobody forces us to come back. It's totally up to the individual soul. Nobody says, you know what, Melina, it's time for you to go have a lifetime. You haven't been in a life for a couple 100 years. Go have another life. It's totally up to the individual. It's totally up to
Do,
us.
do you think that it's like walking through a door when you pass away?
You know what it's like? It's like taking off a jacket, or it's like stepping out of your car. It's so natural. It's so simple that when the body dies, your soul comes out, and the other side always sends somebody to greet us. Nobody ever passes alone. They always send somebody. And when I was in the orientation building, I don't know how they knew that man was coming through, but they did. They already knew who it was and when he was going to pass. That's
Maybe
the
it was
same.
because of his book.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they have it all written, you know.
Maybe they have the
My
scripts.
grandfather, yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said that, because my grandfather, I remember poor man, he died at 98 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And, I remember going to see him and him asking, he says to me, I think God forgot about me. He would think that the poor man couldn't eat him by himself. He couldn't see anymore. It was like,
Yeah.
and I think he was just tired, you know, of course.
He was ready to go.
Oh gosh, yes, he was ready. He was so ready. But he did think that he was forgotten about.
Wow. He's not forgotten about now.
No, he sure isn't.
Nope.
No, and I remember he sent me when in a dream, I seen him young again, like you said, around 30. Every time I see a past loved one, they're around 30. Like,
isn't it? It's
it
crazy,
is, and
it?
it's just a confirmation when you say that to me, because I see them at that age too, and I'm just like, what did you do? Like, why are you so young?
Yeah.
You know? But he was riding a bike.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he hadn't rode a bike you could imagine in many, many years. So, but that made me happy, and he was waving to me. And he was so happy to be on that bike. Yeah, it was such a great visual. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting.
What a validation.
It is. It totally is to me.
You know, something.
It doesn't stop the pain, though.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it doesn't.
The human emotions that we carry. And then I try to say, oh, no, you know where they're going and blah, blah, blah. And it's best that they're there. They're lucky to be there. But it doesn't take away the pain of it here for us.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And I think if more of us, if we could get more people to see and understand, like your wonderful story, there's so many people could maybe start dealing and grieving a little bit different.
Yeah.
But it's really, really hard on some people.
Oh, it's
like, and it takes a long time for them to get over. So
I have a friend who lost his wife 2 years ago to cancer, and he met her when they were in their early 20s, and they had all these plans that they were going to do some traveling when they retired, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer, and 6 months after that, she passed. He said it's in fact, I talked to him on Monday, and he said that everywhere he goes, he's reminded of her, and the pain is just horrific.
Unbearable.
And I told him, I said, the one thing that's helped me the most is thinking about what it's going to be like when you see her again, because nobody really dies. They just go to a different place.
That's what I think too.
Yeah,
exactly.
They just go to a different place, in that when your lifetime is finished, you're all going to be reunited again. It's just a matter of time. And that's what I tell people. Just try to think about what it's going to be like when you see him or you see her again, and what a wonderful day that's going to be. In fact, what I learned too, the happiest day any of us ever have is our last one, because we're going home. We're going home.
And I think your soul knows it's going.
Exactly. I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He takes me to this building, and what it looked like, it was a huge, long building, but it didn't have columns on the side. It had columns in the front, kind of like the United States Supreme Court building. It has all these steps that you have to walk up, and it's got
Mm.
white marble columns in the front of it. So he takes me to the inside, and the inside is a huge, gigantic library and really tall bookshelves, 20 or 30 feet high, with books everywhere. And all these people were studying or looking for books or visiting. All these different people were there. So he takes me to the other side of this library on the left-hand side. And on the left-hand side were these rooms. They looked like study rooms that we would say, oh, that's a study room in a library. They looked like about the size of a person's average living room in their house. And he takes me up to this one room, and there was a woman sitting there, and she had her back to me, and she was sitting on a couch. She had jet black hair that was long, that went down to her waist. And she was wearing like a purple kind of a gown or a tunic. And she was watching a video screen. Well, back in 1987, we had those big, gigantic television sets, those huge, thick ones
Yeah.
we didn't have flat screen TVs yet. So
Oh, yeah.
it looked like what she was watching, what we would call a large flat screen TV, like 50 or 60 inches, really big, mounted on the wall. So my guide said, get closer and look what she's watching. So I get closer, and she's watching a battle of Native American Indians on horseback fighting United States cavalry. And I thought, oh, she's watching a movie that was made. And my guide said, no, she's watching a real battle. She was watching something that happened 200 years ago with the United States cavalry in the United States, in Native American Indians, and they were all on horseback. And I thought it was a movie. And I said, how is that possible? Because we didn't have video cameras back then. How could this possibly be recorded? How can she be watching this? And my guide said, everything gets recorded. And that's a God thing. I don't understand. How is it possible that everything is recorded? And he told me that on the other side, if you want to learn about something, you can go to one of these libraries. You can go to one of these rooms, and you can actually watch history as it actually happened. And I still, to this day,
Wow.
I still don't understand how that's possible. But if you wanted to learn about World War II, or you wanted to learn about, battles that took place in England or in the medieval times, you can go watch these things on these screens, and you can watch history. And I thought that was absolutely extraordinary. And we can go look at anything we want to learn about. TVs couldn't fit on walls. We didn't have TVs mounted on walls. Well, here's the next place he takes me to is the only way I can describe it. It was a castle that you would see in medieval England, made of stone, this beautiful, perfect, gigantic castle. And my guide explained to me that on the other side, if there's something you want to learn about, you can go to the libraries, you can get books, you can go watch history, but you can also experience it on the other side. You can see what these buildings looked like that people lived in. So if you're on the other side and you think, you know what, I want to learn about medieval Europe. What did they live in? You can go to this place on the other side and you can see castles and see what they lived in. So we walk into the front gate, and the first thing I notice is there's this huge, sprawling red carpet all throughout the whole castle, and you felt like you were royalty when you walked in. And on both sides of the walls, there were these life-size paintings of people that had lived during that time period, like King George, Queen Anne, and you could walk in and you could see what they looked like, and you could also see what they were wearing. In front of all of these paintings, there was a podium, and on this podium was a book, and the book was about that person's lifetime. So if you're on the other side and you want to go learn about what it was like in medieval Europe, you can go to this castle, see what they lived in, you could see what they looked like, and you could also read about their whole lifetime. So right about then, I looked off to my right, and there was, you know, in castles, they have those round stairwells. There was a woman walking down this stairwell, and she had a kind of a peach colored gown on, and her hair was about your color, just like your hair, right down to her shoulders. And she walked up to me, and this was the first time. Actually, it's not the first time, because the gentleman in the planetarium talked to me too. But this woman, she walked up to me, and she said, "Is there anything I can help you find?" And you know what I said to her? I said the stupidest thing. I said, "No, thanks. I'm just looking." I could have asked her anything. I could have said, "Who are you? Where am I? I thought I was supposed to be having surgery. What's going on?" And my guide said that what she does on the other side is she is like what we would call a professor of that particular era of Earth's history. That's what she loved to learn about.
You lost your chance.
I know, I did.
Goodness.
I still can't believe I said that. That was the stupidest thing I could. It's like that's what you say when you go buy clothes. Oh,
you
no,
were
thanks.
being polite.
Yeah. So that
you
was.
were being polite. That's.
Yeah.
You lost your chance to find out a whole bunch of stuff.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Well, here's this next part is what we talked about in the beginning. This is where the whole thing came together for me. So my guide takes me to a meadow, and it was the most beautiful meadow that I have ever seen. It was a perfect day, sun shining, wild flowers growing, tall grass, beautiful meadow, rollicking hills, just beautiful. And then he left, and I thought I was standing there by myself. So I turned around, and as soon as I turned around, I noticed there was a gentleman standing in front of me, and I could see what he was wearing. He had a white gown or a white robe on with a golden sash around his waist, and he was wearing sandals that laced up his calves. They looked kind of gold. And I knew, and I don't know how I know this, I just knew that this was the person we know as Jesus. And when I looked at him, he was different than everybody else I saw, because everyone I saw I can see them just like I can see you. They all have their own personality, their own look about them. But with Jesus, there was so much light that was coming out of his face that I couldn't see his features. I couldn't see what he looked like. But he spoke to me, and he said, "You must tell them there is no death." In the very second he said that, it was like, boom, I woke back up in the operating room. They sent me back right after he said that. And I've heard of some people were offered the chance to stay there. You can either stay here or you can go back to Earth. I think if they had given me that choice, I said, I want to stay here. I don't want to go back. So they didn't give me that choice. They sent me back. And that's
you had a job to do.
Yeah.
You had a job, a big one too.
and that's kind of how I took it. It's like, okay, they showed me something that isn't for me. It was for me to share it, because it gave me so much hope. And that's been the biggest reason why I've tried to share my stories as often as I can, because it gives people hope that their loved ones aren't gone.
You gave me so much hope. I can tell you that.
I'm so glad. I am so glad, because that's why they showed it to me.
Yeah. And I think this will give a lot of people hope.
I
And
hope so.
I think it takes all kinds of us to get that word out. It takes all kinds of get it out any way you can, right? And it just is unbelievable,
I know it is.
isn't it?
It's crazy. I know.
Why you?
I have no idea.
Why do you think?
I have wondered for so many years, why did they show that to me? Why wouldn't they just give it to Oprah? Oprah has an audience. She could tell the entire planet. Why would they
You
give it
know,
to? Well, I don't even
I know
have.
why.
Yeah,
Because you're normal and you're believable and because you're you. You
maybe.
don't want like who are we going to listen to? Like who okay, let's just say me. I'm not into celebrities, so I don't watch television either. So I haven't watched television in over 13 years. I don't listen to news. I don't subject myself to that kind of torture
That's
as far
smart.
as I'm concerned.
That's smart.
But I listen to people like you. And I want to listen to people that are like you. I want them to be normal. I don't want them to have ego. I want them to be like you. So
Yeah.
that's why I think you.
Well, thank you
And
for
you're
saying that.
normal.
No.
And people will believe you and you're trusting and you can tell you're very caring. And I think that's why you.
Well, that's
And
wonderful.
you've done exactly what you've said you'd do, right?
Yeah.
Or what they told you to do.
Yeah.
You've
What they
done
told me to do.
exactly
Yeah.
that.
And you know what's so interesting about that is it's because I think about it was how he said it. He didn't say, you know what, John, when it's easy for you, when it's convenient, where you're not busy, when you don't have anything going on, would you mind sharing this? It wasn't like that. It was like, you must tell them there is no death. And I
It was a
realized
command.
that, okay, I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing what they told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you are.
what you're doing is also extraordinary. You're one of those messengers that's going to get this.
I took a long time to get here. I just started over a month ago
Yeah.
after, but I do believe that, yes, I touched the other side as well, not as far in as you. But I did have an encounter with
That's
Jesus.
fantastic. That's wonderful.
And I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely.
Actually, I was very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I believe what you say. I truly do. And I'm glad it was you who's giving the message, because sometimes those celebrities aren't believable because they're probably
No.
getting paid.
You know what? I never thought
doing,
about that, but you're right.
and another thing, knowing what I feel about Jesus, just my personal opinion, he would go to someone like you or I, he wouldn't go to someone that was already has a big platform. He's like likes the underdog. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to go to the people.
That's a really good point. Thank you for
I
saying
think.
that.
I
I
mean,
never
yeah,
thought
you're
about that.
welcome.
Wow.
Because people will listen because you're normal. And
That's
you're
wonderful.
kind.
Thank you for saying that.
It is. It's true though.
I never really thought
know.
about that, but yeah. That's how I try to.
See, it just takes other people that you meet up with,
Yeah.
to, see a different perspective. That's all. And someone else might have another perspective. We all have different thoughts, but we're all here for a reason. I truly believe you and I were supposed to meet. I
think so
truly
too.
do.
I have
a feeling.
I had a wonderful time meeting you.
Thank you so much. Your journey through the afterlife is very vivid and layered with meaning. Why do you feel your soul was shown those sacred places like the Life Review Center and the Library of Souls?
I think it's something that you just made me aware of, is that I wanted to be as genuine and authentic as I could possibly be, because when I would look at my life and all the things that I had been through, the people that I lost, my parents, my uncle, my grandparents, my best friend, all these people that passed before me, I was given so much hope, knowing that nobody ever really dies. We just go to a different place, and that we're all going to be reunited again. I think that knowing, because it's not just a belief anymore for me, it's an absolute knowing, because I saw it. I know that nobody dies. And I know that we're all just separated temporarily. And my NDE gave me that knowing. And what it did for me, it gave me so much hope that I think the other side knew that I would share that and give that kind of hope to other people, like the hope that they gave to me. I think that's why.
Absolutely. You witnessed souls stepping into their spiritual prime, I should say, from going to very old to 30 years old after leaving their body. How does that insight inform you now when you view human growth and evolution?
It makes me so proud of people when I see people who are going through difficult times and they don't give up, because that's what my guide showed me when we had the reunion. When everybody has that reunion, all those people are there rooting for us. And none of us realize how many people we really have who are on the other side rooting for us to do our best. Because that's one of the reasons why we're here, to do our best, to go through some dark times, some challenging times, and to grow from that and become more and to develop and to know that so many of us come here to go through hard times. It makes you so proud to know people that have never given up, that they keep fighting. Like what you said earlier about the underdog. We all like to hear about the underdog because we're all like that here. We're all going through difficult circumstances. We all have our Mount Everest
And
moment.
have been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I picked a hard life for myself, I can tell you that. And wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would do that, but I sure did. But I came out on the good side of it. So
and now you're helping
I'm
other
lucky.
people too. And
Yes,
your show's going to help other people.
I think that's key when you start, like I'm in my 50s now. So when you start getting, I don't know, really started to hone in on me around 50.
Yeah.
I started to change.
Yeah.
I started to, I spend more time alone. I started to listen to me and go in more. And there was a calling and I just answered it, much probably like you, right?
Yeah. That's wonderful.
It is. You say often that there is no death, but what would you say to someone that was grieving the loss of someone?
Yep. I know exactly what that's like because I lost both my parents 2 years ago and the 2 months apart from each other. Then I lost my uncle. I lost one of my best friends. He took his life, and I know what it's like to go through grief. The only thing that has helped me, and I think it's because I have an advantage over a lot of people because I was shown things. It's not just a belief anymore for me. It's not like, okay, I believe that my parents are okay. It's not like that for me. It's like, I know they are. And so for me, when I lose somebody, it's different because I am more happy for them knowing where they are and knowing how happy they are, how much at peace they are, and how much joy they feel, that it almost masks any kind of grief that I would feel. I still miss them, but I know that it's only a matter of time until I see them again. And I think that's the difference between people that have near-death experiences like my experience, because they know that it's only a matter of time until we're all going to be together again. And they're just happy for where their family members are because they know that they're happy now. They're at peace. There's no pain. There's no suffering. There's no sorrow. They're absolutely happy, and they can't wait until we get back to reunite with them.
I can't wait to see some of the people that have passed over.
I know,
again.
me too.
That will be lovely.
Me
that
too.
will be so nice. During your experience, you did visit a lot of these spiritual structures, and each of them symbolized something different to you, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Right. And if you had a chance to choose just one of those places to go back to, which one would it be?
The planetarium.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I would want to go back and get closer and see what the civilizations look like. That's what I would want to do. I have always loved astronomy. And even though I don't understand it very well, I love to learn about planets and galaxies and stars, and I love all of that stuff. And so that's the one place I think I'd want to go back to would be the planetarium.
That sounds awesome, right?
Yeah.
It really does. What do you think that the most misunderstood part of the afterlife is?
I think from everything that I have heard from other people, it is that everything that we love, we still do on the other side. Because I think people need to know that we're not from here. This isn't home. We're all from heaven or from the other side. And I think that is, if I could convey anything, it would be that this isn't our home. We're only here temporarily. The other side, that's our real home. That's where our real lives take place. This lifetime that we're all living, it's just a drop in the ocean of a person's whole existence. And I think if people could realize that there is so much more about our lives, it's not just here. You've got to expand your mind, expand your horizons, and learn about what's really out there. And it's not just to be focusing on ourselves. It's to help lift up humanity and help humanity remember that where we're from, that we all have lives on the other side also, that we're just here temporarily.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead. Do you dream, John?
You know what? Sometimes I remember my dreams really well, but most of the time I don't. That's why I was so amazed that I could remember every single detail of my NDE, because I think that was a gift from God. You know how a lot of people will say that they were given a gift when they had a near-death experience? Yep. Well, I didn't have anything like that. I can't hear them. I can't see them. I don't have any kind of abilities. But I think what they gave me was this memory to remember every single detail, to be able to share
That's
it.
a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an absolute gift. Because a lot of people can't remember. However, there is a lot of people that can remember a lot of detail about their near-death experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like they're never supposed to forget them.
I think so.
Yeah. Like, I can walk around the house and lose my keys and can't remember where I put this or that, but I can remember that.
Yeah.
I can remember every single spiritual connection I had from 3 years old.
Oh.
It's like, how do I remember those things? But I can't remember my birthday party. The last question for you is, since returning, when you came back, when you're 21, did your understanding of the human connection change at that age after your NDE?
What I can tell you happened is, I think it did, but I went through a horrible depression. I mean, it was so bad that I really thought about suicide, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand how was I supposed to live here, knowing what I know, what I just experienced. How is that possible? Because the thing that is the most difficult, I think, when people have their NDEs, they have these experiences, they can feel how much God loves them. And here on earth, it's almost like when you come here, you're in a battle and you're in a foxhole without a radio and you feel cut off. On the other side, you don't feel like that. You have that feeling your whole life that there's something missing. There's something that I'm not getting here. And all that is fulfilled on the other side. It's the love of God. And I just could not imagine, how was I supposed to live here until I'm in my 70s or 80s or 90s, knowing what I know? And it took me 2 months, a severe 2-month depression, before I pulled myself out of it and realized that, okay, I was given something that I'm supposed to share, and I have to learn to walk in both worlds. and share what I've seen, because it's given me so much hope that I've got to give it to other people too. And I think that's how my connection has really changed. I want to be here as long as possible to help others, but I also can't wait until my time comes. I can't wait to get back.
That wasn't a very good experience after. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was hard.
You did it.
Yeah,
with grace.
And I wouldn't have changed it, because it's given me the opportunity to talk to people like you, people that are out there making a difference and sharing their stories and helping other people as much as they can.
I'm sitting here and I've got really strong vibrations happening. Do you ever get that feeling?
I get it every time I share my story. I get that same feeling again. It's almost like when I relate the story, it's like being back there again for me. It's a great feeling. And I've been able to discipline myself to not think I just want to go back. And I have to discipline myself to realize that you were given this task that you have to share, and that's why you're here. And ever since then, I've just realized that I know when my time comes, I'll get to go back. But until that time comes, share as much as you can and give that hope to anybody who will listen.
I really think when you get back there, there is going to be one hell of a celebration.
We'll have to get together and have coffee.
Right? Oh,
yeah.
My goodness. Well, John, let's talk about what's next for you now. And you have a book?
You know what? I don't, actually. I have a website, though.
You don't?
No.
A website. Okay.
Yeah. The website is johnjdavis, NDE.com. And what's so neat about that is that a friend of mine actually designed a website, because I don't know anything about that stuff. Because I don't have a book, I don't have a podcast, I don't have anything. I just share my story. But what she did is she used AI to look at some of these different things that I saw, and she put them on the website. Yeah, so you can actually go to the website and see what some of these things looked like that I actually saw.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Your journey offers so much hope and insight into the continuity of life, reminding us all that we are on a path of growth, love, and divine guidance. These aren't just stories, they're soul mirrors. And to those who are listening, may you sit with what resonated. May you remember that death is not the end. And until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.